but to recommend as under discussion items, under that agenda item, to recommend future discussions. So
I think that's the same thing we're talking about, that the future agenda items, we said we had a plan, right, that we were going to get them into before the meeting to the president, and then, you know, she would discuss it with the superintendent on what would be added. And once we got that up and working, because we were having issues with that, and once we got that up and working, then we would take the next step, which would be to adding that as part of the meeting, you know, for future items, can we talk about this? But until we got the first one going,
right. So the
was that, it does, I mean,
no, I'm clear communicating ahead what we would like to bring to a particular agenda, and then Teresa meets with Dr. Adams. They make the decision whether it's appropriate for that meeting or future meeting or requires more time. But then I specifically asked the question to the retreat moderator, does that mean that we do not ask for discussions in public? And the response was, you still can ask whether it was accepted for that agenda or not. You could still do it under discussions as a board member, state that I would like a future discussion regarding blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean the board members need to take any action on it or vote on it, or say yes or no, but it is the right of board member to, under discussion,
he did say
to make that statement.
He did say that you have a right to do that, but I think we decided as a group that we were going to work in a succession plan.
Obviously.
That we were going to.
We would work on planning ahead, but if a board member feels the need to request a discussion item in the future, they have the right to do that under discussion. So my question, now that we're looking at the agenda, do we need to enlist that specifically, or it's going to fall under that item from what meeting? I just want to make sure, since we're checking our policies, that we, you know, are accurate.
So my understanding was we were going to leave this the way it is and list some of the things that we discussed, or all of the items that we discussed, to try to work on this piece of it first, see how the process is going. And we are not saying we won't bring this back to look at it again. We've shared that in the past we removed Board of Ed comments, I believe it was 2006-ish. You know, so that is something that we will revisit, but that we want to, in all fairness, give the process we discussed time to work to see if it does work properly and if it alleviates some of the things that might come up that need, that, you know, at the last minute that need to be discussed. So this is again what we're recommending, but not against coming back and looking at it down the road. I mean, again, we can open this up as a policy committee if we feel that that's necessary. But this is the recommendation at this time.
And it wouldn't be putting board members or administration on the spot. It would be, you know, showing interest in a discussion in the future that could or could not happen because we had said.
I don't disagree with you, Amani. I think you're right. And it should happen, but I think there was a plan in place that it was going to happen in succession. That's all.
Well, so that the whole board would actually have the option of voting on whether that discussion will in fact happen in the future, but not when that board member has made that decision.
We never had a long conversation with respect to follow up to that, with respect to how things are actually put on the agenda. And in fact, we had commented, maybe I had commented, I don't know who else in the room was, that when items are brought up, we talked about polling the board, getting the feel for the board, and I explained that in that meeting about how it's decided if it goes on, if it doesn't go on. And I think at that point of the conversation is when we said, okay, let's, as Maureen said, let's do it this way for now and see how that works, and then we revisit it, as Teresa said. So either way, discussion item, as far as this policy in and of itself, so we don't belabor this too much, is it's still discussion item and it's still there. How it gets on the agenda is different. Okay, this is just really the board meeting procedures and as far as the order of business. Because there were certain things on here, or not in the minute in this policy that we were doing, you know, or that we needed to do. Like student report was not separate, so we had to adjust certain things. So that's really just what the extent of this is. As far as the procedure for how we will do this and how we'll get things on the board, that's something that he left us a great book on the procedures, which we should really review on the process of doing it. This is simply laying forth items 1 through 16 that you'll see on every agenda. So what goes in each one, that would be obviously a procedure that we would develop.
It's a great time to have this conversation, though, you know, as we're working on it.
I have 3 things to say. I think that this warrants going back to the policy committee to look at these procedures, because I don't know what the urgency is in changing this right now. This is straight from that blueprint. Board members may also introduce potential agenda items during board discussion. Each meeting agenda will provide a brief period of time for board members to offer comment or raise an issue to see if it is the will of the board to consider the issue at a future meeting. And I think that's what Amani is trying to say. The third comment that I have is there's been a lot of movement in these procedures. And you know, I watched the whole video from the last meeting, and it said that it would be reviewed here why there was movement. I also noted in previous minutes there is a section for approval of the agenda and modification that has been removed, or I guess never was in these procedures, and so I'm curious as to why that isn't in there. But I don't understand what the urgency is in pushing this through. Let's do this the right way and review it once and be done with it, as opposed to going back and back and back.
I'd like to say on behalf of the policy committee, although I'm not chair, so I apologize, but this isn't a last minute thing. The policy committee, with every single policy we review, we look at every nook and cranny, we talk to people, we get information from this, we get information from our attorneys, we look at best practices, we look at the practices of other districts. It's not something that is simply, you know, haphazardly put together. You know, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but policy committee works very hard in going through every policy. With respect to some of these things, I think you mentioned the modification. That has never been on in the board meeting in this policy. And again, the district report was never on it, so we were doing things that that were inappropriate. As far as moving them around, I'm not sure if you mean just moving the numbers in different order. In different order. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Marlise, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, there's just highlights, and one is red and one is yellow.
Well, some we just changed the order. Like, we didn't want to put student report last because she may want to leave, or he, may want to leave right after the report. Roll call used to be actually, I think, a little bit lower, but it was silly because we have a quarter of a meeting before we did roll call. So certain things were changed.
And we added closing comments of the superintendent, which he had done at different meetings, but now it's in there where it wasn't in there previously. So that's some of the reason for the change of order as well, because of what was inputted versus what wasn't there at the beginning.
So can I make a final comment? And this is my last on this time. Just quoting Robert's rules so that we're all as a board clearly understanding the purpose of an agenda is what it is, basically. So yes, we hope to stick to an agenda, but why do we have one, and are working so hard to make it in the right order and list everything. So I just quote, one reason for adopting an agenda may be that meeting time is short, so adopting the agenda thus expedites the business so that it can all be completed. An agenda should not be adopted for the purpose of excluding ideas. The president should not impose his or her own agenda on the members. The president is to preside and see that the members' wishes are carried out and that all members have the right to bring business before the board. The chairman protects everyone's rights by preventing dilatory motions. The members should decide what is to come before the board. So yes, we all vote on what comes before the board, but again, the president's role is to make sure that everyone's heard. So I want to make sure, as we are dotting our I's, like I said, and crossing our T's on what will be part of the agenda, it is not intended to stop people from expressing their ideas.
Right, and the only caveat to Robert's rules is if our policy contradicts Robert's rules or clarifies an issue that you bring up in Robert's rules, our policy is superior to that. And then the law would be
right,
to that.
But that's what an agenda in general is intended to do. It is not intended to stop anyone from expressing their.
Right, and we have this policy with other policies actually go into. It's not just this and blindly look at this and this is our whole meeting. There's other setting the agenda policies where it talks about how the agenda is set. So we do have other policies related to that. So I don't want, it's not just what's in here. And that is somewhat of maybe another conversation. But I think with respect to just today, with respect to these two policies, I don't know if Marlise, unless you have any further comments, or we've heard from everybody, I believe.
My only comment is to develop a little bit more of the discussion items. section to really promote this blueprint number 5, where board members may introduce ideas. I think that that's an important thing for the community to know, that their board members are able to bring things to the table that affect the best interests of the kids. And I think that this would be a unique opportunity for the policy committee to develop that and to move that issue forward. So that would be my final say.
And you guys got it. I know, someone change your name. Both start with a C, very confusing. Any further comments by any other board members? Okay, that being the discussion, the motion as it stands right now is to accept the recommendation of the board of the policy committee with respect to policies 2350 and, sorry, and 2360.